Well, that's another thing that people are getting like, well, okay, so a couple things. One is we'll get into that soon, but every like conspiracy to commit a crime includes speech because that's how we communicate with people. So it's not like if you say to someone, go tell that person
He has to tell him
that
how people talk.
you're that go take this dead person's ID and go vote. It's free speech for me to say that, but it's also criminal.
Is it? Okay, well, I guess the question...
For sure, dude. Yeah, you sent me this shit, and I was like, I'm not even surprised at this point. I mean, I do have to say, shout out to Aaron Mate, because I know we're his favorite podcast, and it makes it a little bit difficult to criticize the guy because he's always just had fawning praise for us, and I get that. But you know what? This is the Vanguard, and we call balls and strikes here, man. You know, you can't buy favoritism even with the intense praise that he's always heaped upon our program. You know, so that being said, I guess we could go ahead and get into this because it's pretty disappointing. You know, Aaron's a sharp guy. He won an I.F. Stone Izzy Award over at Ithaca College. You know what I mean? He's done some good reporting in the past, and you know, I like to think of this as, you know, Aaron Mate entering his Dunkachino era. You know, remember when Al Pacino started doing the Dunkachino and he does the whole song and dance for, you know,
and Jack
Aaron
and Jill.
Mate's out there. Yeah. He's, you know, he's out there doing Aaron Mate's doing a Dunkachino of his own. You know, he's resting on his laurels and he's taking a fat shit on whatever credentials he had. You know, just like the Al did in the old Dunkachino bit. So, hey, you know what? Without further ado, let's hear from old Aaron.
Right. And if you guys don't remember, Useful Idiots is the podcast that Katie Halper used to co-host with Matt Taibbi, but Matt got a little busy, so they had to bring in Aaron to replace him. This is what Matt's been up to lately, going on Reason TV to talk about how the left lost its mind. What a fucking loser. Anyway,
dude, have no fucking heroes.
Let's take a look at this. This is just beyond the pale stupid, in my opinion. Aaron knows he's being dishonest. He knows he's being 100%. And you're about to see what I'm talking about. Let's take a look.
Yeah, and let me say too, I thought a good remedy was impeachment because this was to me a political act, and so impeachment is a political remedy. I thought that was appropriate. Trump acted in a reckless way. You know, totally unbecoming of a president. And I thought impeaching him was a form of censure that was fair. I just don't know if this is criminal. I hope people get that distinction.
Well, because you can't tell a bunch of people like to go to the State House and sign a fake document claiming that they're electors when they're not. That's the criminal part.
Maybe you can. That's all I'm saying. Maybe you can. That could fall under free speech to me.
Oh yeah, that crime. Who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe it's a crime. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just free speech. Like, so stupid. Like I said, just intentionally being dense about this in order to defend Donald Trump for some reason. Who, by the way, I'll remind everyone, campaigned on putting Hillary Clinton in jail. So, like, no, apparently none of Trump's supporters had any problem with, like, you know, like going after your political opponents. They were literally chanting "lock her up" at his rallies.
Benghazi was real, Gavin.
Right. And that's the other thing. You know, it's like people act like, oh, the left is so eager to go after Donald Trump. The left is so eager to go after Donald Trump for these crimes. But do you not think the Republicans would have gone after a Democratic president if they had also tried to steal a fucking election, if they had tried to prevent a peaceful transfer of power and, you know, end American democracy? They made a year-long scandal out of Benghazi. You don't think Fox News would ever shut up about that if Obama had tried to like steal an election, or Hillary Clinton? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is absolute insanity. And you want to say, well, you know, why is Trump being indicted when Hillary wasn't being indicted? Well, that's because Hillary was at least a slightly sophisticated criminal. Unlike Donald Trump, there wasn't like 6 voice recordings of Hillary being like, yeah, LOL, I know this is a crime. I am aware that it is a crime and I'm going to do it anyway. Ultimately, Hillary got off because they couldn't prove the intent behind the crime, which is still stupid. She was obviously guilty. But with Trump, he's made it so easy. He's given them so many examples of blatant intent, easily proven, that it's like, how is it not a crime? To not go after it would be more scandalous. To not prosecute this crime, in my opinion, would be more political than to prosecute this crime, just because it's so fucking blatant.
Yeah, it's wild that people want to pretend like it was no big deal. Like I wasn't myself like fucking terrified that Donald Trump was going to actually be successful, right? But I still was like, hey, this is against the law. Like this is clearly in broad daylight. You are committing a massive crime. Also, guys, have you ever heard of a charge called treason? They used to just fucking kill you for that. I don't know what's more treasonous than trying to fucking stay in power and subvert the will of a democratic republic. Okay, I'm just saying. But Aaron over there, he says, oh, maybe you can just do that. Maybe you can just say whatever. Maybe you can just. Maybe laws are just. I mean, you know what I mean? Maybe that. Who knows? Well, let's find out. Because honestly, this is like one of the best 60 seconds of content that I've seen from Katie Halper in a while. Once you press play.
Well, that's another thing that people are getting like. Well, okay, so a couple things. One is we'll get into that soon, but every like conspiracy to commit a crime includes speech because that's how we communicate with people. So it's not like if you say to someone, go tell that person
You have to tell him
that
how people talk.
you're that go take this dead person's ID and go vote. It's free speech for me to say that, but it's also criminal.
Is it?
Katie
Okay,
Halper.
well, I guess the question.
It's like she's explaining this to a literal toddler, right? Like a literal toddler, oh my, and you know that it's just, he's being obtuse on purpose. He's being dense as fuck on purpose. And he's trying to fucking make every weaselly fucking argument that he can for Donald Trump of all people. And it's like, dude, you're giving away your whole game now. We all know your audience is just Republicans now. We all know that is who you're caping for, the people who do not want to see Donald Trump brought to justice. And that was a great point, by the way, Gavin, about how he literally campaigned on the lock her up crooked Hillary deal. Like, the chickens are coming home to roost, pal. And you know what? To Donald's credit, he's just come out and started saying, if you come after me and I win, I'm coming after you. And honestly, I'm here for it. If people commit crimes, they could go to fucking jail. Do you know how many poor people are in jail for barely committing crimes? And how many rich people are at their fucking Hampton estates after they've committed atrocious crimes that should weigh on their conscience, but doesn't?
Yeah, remember when the left all pretended to agree that holding presidents accountable for crimes was like a good thing and something we should see happen in this country? Yeah, and then it actually happens for the first time, and all of a sudden, here's all these fucking excuses. All these fucking excuses. Oh, well, what about free speech? Aren't you concerned about free speech? Aren't you concerned if you ever become president and you try to stay in power illegally and subvert the will of the American people? Wouldn't you be upset if there was a precedent that might criminalize that? Like, bro, there is no precedent being set here that would affect any normal person whatsoever. If I conspire to commit a fucking crime, and yes, do it through speech, as Katie said, that's how humans communicate. If I, call up a hitman and say, hey man, I'm trying to get Zac taken out. I want to be the sole, editor-in-chief of the Vanguard. I'm tired of having this fucker weighing me down. Please go take him out. I'll give you $10,000. Like, that's a crime. Just because I said it over the phone doesn't make it not a crime.
And in case any hitmen are listening, he was fucking kidding.
I was kidding. Yes, luckily. And then the other thing where they're like, well, Trump, he did that, but he really thought the election was stolen. He really believed, he had really bought into the lie himself. It's like, since when is ignorance a defense when you commit a crime? Like, I know it technically can be. No, it's
not actually. They will tell you all the time when you get fucking arrested. If you're like, oh, sorry, officer, I didn't know. They'll be like, ignorance of the law is not an excuse to offend or to break the law. They'll say that exact shit hard as fuck to you. It's only rich white people that get to be like, oh, Dave Chappelle had a bit about that where he was like, the guy was speeding like a motherfucker, and he was like, started confessing things he should never say. Well, excuse me, officer, I'm a little stoned. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Like, it's like only fucking stupid white people would say that to a cop.
Yeah, and obviously normal people that would apply. I meant like, Hillary Clinton had to prove intent, that kind of stuff. But again, why should ignorance be a defense against committing a crime? If I was, very convinced that inside this one building there was a guy torturing and killing infants, but I was totally wrong about that. And then I incited a riot and told a bunch of people, hey, go in that building. There's a guy killing babies in there and he's torturing them. Go in there. And, we got to put an end to this. And then I inspired a riot. 60 people went in that building and killed an innocent man who was in there who they thought was murdering babies. Turns out he's just a normal guy. Yeah, I would be held responsible to that because I spread a lie that encouraged people to act on said lie and commit crimes as a result. Is that not obvious? Like, is that not obvious? And even if I said, well, I really did think that, I really did think there was a guy in that building killing babies, that doesn't matter. I would still go to fucking jail. They'd be like, well, maybe you should have done some investigation into that ridiculous claim before you spread it and incited a riot based on it. So again, like, it's just Trump committed obvious crimes. I don't have to explain this to anyone. No one should have to explain this to anyone. Katie Halper should not have to explain this to Aaron Mate. He understands that, yes, presidents can commit crimes, and just because they're in politics doesn't mean that they can't be held responsible for those crimes. Like I said, I thought we all agreed that presidents should be prosecuted and held accountable when they commit crimes. Apparently not.
100%. And I'm just pulling up an example of yet another example of how you can just use your words and have it be a crime. You brought up, like, if you say that somebody's a child molester and then a bunch of fucking people go to their house and, that creates a crime. Well, it literally is a crime if you call a SWAT team on somebody's house for no reason. And that's just you using your speech. Oh, sorry. I really did believe that guy. Yeah, try that in court. No, they're literally YouTubers that have been arrested for this shit because they'll like SWAT other Twitch streamers, that sort of.
Oh, I don't know where Zach just went. I'm guessing he'll be right back. But yeah, we can watch this again while we wait.
Yeah, and let me say too, I thought a good remedy was impeachment because this was, to me, a political act. And so impeachment is a political remedy. And I thought that was appropriate. Trump acted in a reckless way, totally unbecoming of a president. And I thought impeaching him was a form of censure that was fair. I just don't know if this is criminal. I hope people get that distinction.
Well, because you can't tell a bunch of people like to go to the State House and sign a fake document claiming that they're electors when they're not. That's the criminal part.
Maybe you can. That's all I'm saying. Maybe you can. That could fall under free speech to me.
Well, that's another thing that people are getting like. Well, okay. So a couple things. One is we'll get into that soon. But every like conspiracy to commit a crime includes speech because that's how we communicate with people. So it's not like if you say to someone, go tell that person that you're that go take this dead person's ID and go vote. It's free speech for me to say that, but it's also criminal.
Is it? Okay, well, I guess the question it comes down to is, was whatever Trump was doing there with the alternate electors, does that classify as criminal? And I'm just not convinced. But again, hey.
All right.
This is
okay.
luckily we'll be hearing about this issue every single week for the next whatever.
Exactly. We should have a guest on. Actually, this makes me think. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so there'll be plenty of time to talk about it, and because there's no other issues going on in the world that are worthy of our attention.
Of course.
Yeah. You're such a little. We know what you're doing, pal. We know what you're doing. What are you doing? You're making content for Republicans. Oh yeah, that's what you're doing. Oh yeah, there's no more important issues that we could be talking about, like an esoteric foreign policy discussion. Oh man, yeah. I just don't think that the domestic subversion of our democracies holds a candle to what's happening in Uzbekistan. Why don't you care about the footprint of the United States military-industrial complex, bro? I'm just asking the difficult questions out here. Why are you so concerned with things like your president? I don't know, bro. It seems like it's important stuff. The president, he tried to overthrow the fucking democracy. Yeah, bro. Nothing important about that going on over here, bro. Way to buy into the system's logic, bro. I'm just over here, like, fucking actually trying to, like, preserve the First Amendment and stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like when Hillary was under investigation from the FBI, Zach and I mean, we didn't have a podcast yet, but between ourselves and conversation, we were both like, yeah, hopefully they indict her. That would be great. then Bernie Sanders might win the nomination. Let's go take down Hillary. Just because we're like on the left doesn't mean we had some weird, like reflexive need to defend Hillary Clinton when she obviously did criminal things. I don't understand this reflexive desire to defend politicians, to defend powerful people. Like when a powerful oligarchic politician, when one of those people does something that's obviously criminal, my response is to be like, yeah, investigate them and charge them to the full extent of the law, make them pay, hold them accountable. Like I said, I was really hoping that Hillary Clinton would be indicted. If she had been indicted, I promise I wouldn't have been out here defending her, acting like this was an attack on the First Amendment, because she was just using emails, the private email server. Isn't that kind of free speech? Seems like it might be a violation of the First Amendment, bro. She was just typing those emails, kind of just a free speech issue. If you think about it, of course not, because we're not fucking.
Isn't this really just a privacy issue, bro? I mean, honestly, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like emails, personal emails, you know what I mean? Wow, private emails, public and private. I don't know, bro. It seems like, doesn't this just seem like more of a clerical issue? Doesn't it? I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a law. It's a political thing, isn't it? The politics aren't law. Law isn't politics, right? They have nothing to do with each other. This is politics.